He told her he was counting the days until he could come home. He said the only thing standing between them and their future together was one last urgent payment. And so, in a quiet Midwestern town, a grandmother named Margaret walked into her bank, shaking, heart pounding, and wired away the money she had spent a lifetime saving for a man she had never once seen in real life. By the time she realized Jackson wasn't a brave U.S. soldier in danger overseas, but a carefully constructed lie, her world, her trust, and her savings were already gone. Before we dive fully into this story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and hit subscribe to our channel. Your support is what helps us keep exposing these chilling, educational true stories so we can help someone else spot the warning signs before it's too late. Now, sit back, take a deep breath, and let's begin the story in full. Margaret had spent most of her life taking care of everyone else. She was in her late 60s, a retired nurse, living alone in a modest house on a quiet street. Her husband had passed away a few years earlier. The house still held his voice in old voicemails, his handwriting on sticky notes, an extra pillow on the bed that she couldn't bring herself to move. Her days were simple: morning coffee, a walk past the same oak tree, the soft glow of her tablet in the evenings. Her children lived in other states. They called, but life was busy. Most nights, after dinner, Margaret sat in her favorite armchair, scrolling through social media. She liked videos of dogs doing tricks, recipes, church sermons, and the occasional people you may know suggestion. One night, a friend request appeared with a profile picture that looked like it came straight out of a military recruitment poster. His name? Jackson. Uniform. American flag in the background. Caption: serving overseas, missing home. Margaret hesitated. They had no mutual friends, but his bio mentioned faith, family, and service. He looked kind, respectable, safe. She accepted. The first message was simple. "Hi, Margaret. I hope this doesn't feel too forward, but your smile is truly warm. How are you today?" It felt polite, gentle, and for the first time in a long time, someone was asking how she was, with real interest. Days turned into weeks. Jackson told her he was a U.S. soldier deployed in a dangerous region. He said he couldn't video call because of base security protocols. He claimed they monitored devices, that it wasn't safe to show his surroundings. But he always had time to type out long, heartfelt messages. He remembered small details: her favorite hymn, the story of how she met her late husband, the way she took her coffee, 2 creams, no sugar. He began to call her my angel, my best friend, and then my future. Margaret felt embarrassed at first. She was older. She told herself it was just friendship, just conversation. But when he started talking about coming back home and wanting to spend his life with someone who understands his soul, it awakened something in her she thought was gone forever: hope. Months passed. Then the first problem arrived. Jackson told her his unit was being rotated, and he was finally going to come back to the U.S. He said he'd already requested leave, so he could visit her town first. She could picture it, meeting him at the airport, holding a small sign with his name, laughing at how silly it felt. The way movies made love stories look suddenly didn't feel so unrealistic. But then, late one night, a long message arrived in her inbox. He said there was a complication with his deployment funds and clearance fees that needed to be paid quickly to process his leave papers. He claimed that because he was overseas, he couldn't access his own account to make the payment. He said, "If I miss this deadline, they'll extend my deployment. I don't know if I can keep going without you waiting for me on the other side. Margaret, you're the only one I can trust." Her stomach twisted. She had never sent large amounts of money online. But he didn't ask her to wire it to Jackson. He gave her the name of a trusted contact in the U.S. who would handle the official transfer on his behalf. Margaret went to the bank the next day, hands shaking, voice quiet. She told herself this was a one-time thing, an act of love, an investment in their future. She wired the money. If you're still following this story right now, tell me in the comments, what would you have told Margaret at this point? Do you think you would have recognized the red flag? Or would the loneliness and emotions have clouded your judgment too? Let me know your thoughts below. The messages from Jackson didn't stop. In fact, they became even more intense. He thanked her, called her his lifeline, said she had saved him. He talked about the house they would share, the trips they would take, even what he would cook for her on Sunday afternoons. But then, another issue, a shipment delay, a customs problem, a security bond that needed to be posted before he could travel. Every time she thought they were close to finally being together, something new appeared. Every time, there was another payment, always sent to someone new, but always for Jackson. Margaret felt uneasy. She tried to question it a few times. Can't the Army help you? Can we talk on video just once? He always had an answer. He said the military bureaucracy was slow. He said video calls could get him in trouble or compromise the mission. He said if she loved him, she'd trust him. And so, she pushed down her doubts and sent more money. Quietly, her savings account began to bleed, the emergency fund she and her husband had built over decades. Gone in transfers, one after another. When her daughter visited and casually asked, "Mom, how's your account looking for retirement?" Margaret smiled and changed the subject. Shame had already moved in. What Margaret didn't know was that far away, in a small office where investigations begin with a single complaint, her story was about to collide with law enforcement. Another woman in another state had reported a similar pattern. Fake soldier, no video calls, excuses, money sent to U.S. bank accounts and then quickly moved elsewhere. Then a third report, then a fourth. Different victims, different fake names, but the same style, the same structure. An analyst flagged the pattern. The sending accounts were different, but some of the receiving accounts inside the U.S. matched. The money was landing with a few individuals who then rapidly withdrew it, converted it, or passed it on. The online lover wasn't the only actor in this story. He was the face, but someone else was holding the bags. That's when federal investigators stepped in. They began tracing bank transfers, pulling transaction logs, requesting surveillance from ATMs. Behind every romance message was a trail of numbers, deposits, and withdrawals. Cold, unemotional data that told the truth Margaret couldn't bear to see. One of those trails led to a quiet neighborhood on the East Coast. A man who didn't look like a soldier, no uniform, no combat boots. But his bank records were overflowing with transfers from older women across different states, all referencing things like fee, loan help, clearance, or simply for you. Investigators watched. Days of surveillance. They saw packages arrive, then disappear. They saw cash picked up, then wired out again to foreign accounts. The supposed favored contact Jackson had told Margaret about wasn't a helpful intermediary. He was part of a pipeline that funneled stolen hope into real money. The day everything started to unravel for Margaret felt normal at first. She was making tea when her phone buzzed. A new message from Jackson. He told her his leave was finally approved. One more fee, he said. Just one. After that, he promised, "I'll be in your arms within 2 weeks." Her chest tightened. She walked to her desk, opened her checkbook, and sat down. And then, there was a knock at the door, a firm, official knock. When she opened it, 2 people stood outside, not in military uniform, but in plain clothes, badges hanging from lanyards. They introduced themselves as federal agents. The world seemed to tilt. They asked if they could come in and talk. They gently told her that they believed she was the victim of an online romance scam. They had seen the transfers from her account. They had records of her messages. They knew the name Jackson. Margaret's first reaction wasn't anger. It wasn't outrage. It was denial. "No, not him. You don't understand. He's different. He's a soldier. They showed her a printout, the same profile picture, used under a different name in another case, used again under yet another name. They explained how scammers steal military photos from real servicemen online, how they reuse images to run dozens of fake personas at once, how they target widows, older women, people who post about being lonely. Slowly, piece by piece, the truth carved its way through the fog. Margaret's knees gave out, and she sank into her chair. The kettle screamed on the stove as tears finally came. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, the man investigators had been watching, the one receiving Jackson's money, was about to have his own morning interrupted. Unmarked vehicles rolled quietly down his street. Agents stepped out, spread into formation. A team moved to the front door. A final check, a nod, then a pounding knock and a loud, commanding voice. "Federal agents, open the door!" For a few seconds, nothing. Then, scrambling inside, footsteps. The door swung open. Confusion flashed across his face for barely a moment, before he saw the badges, the vests, the seriousness in their eyes. He was ordered to step outside, hands out where they could see them. Neighbors peered through curtains and cracked doors as he was turned around, wrists pulled behind his back, cold metal locking shut. Handcuffs. Rights read. His quiet life? Suddenly not so quiet anymore. That moment, the click of those cuffs, wasn't just the sound of an arrest. It was the echo of dozens of broken hearts, hundreds of secret tears, and lifetimes of savings stolen from people who just wanted to be loved. In the months that followed, investigators gathered evidence, bank statements, chat logs, testimonies from victims like Margaret. In court, the story unfolded. Not as a romantic saga, but as a calculated scheme to exploit loneliness and trust. The man who had been receiving the money was convicted for his role in the scam. He was sentenced to prison and ordered to repay part of what had been stolen. As for Jackson, the digital ghost behind the screen, the real person using that name was never the brave soldier he claimed to be, and the investigation suggested he was operating from outside the country, hidden behind layers of fake accounts and foreign networks. But here's the hard truth. Even when one link in the chain is broken, there are others waiting to recruit more middlemen, create more fake profiles, and target more people like Margaret. Margaret never got all her money back, but with time, support, and counseling, she began to understand something important. The shame didn't belong to her. It belonged to the people who weaponized her kindness. She now speaks to her friends about what happened. She warns them, if someone you've never met asks for money, especially online, pause. Talk to someone you trust. Verify. Love should never come with an invoice. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end of Margaret's story. If this episode moved you, if it opened your eyes to how deep these online romance scams can cut, please hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to BYTE Crimes. Your engagement doesn't just help this channel grow, it helps push these warnings out to someone who might be one message away from making the same tragic mistake. Stay safe online, and I'll see you in the next story.